President. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank my good friend Senator Bill Nelson for his introduction. Thank you for coming out tonight. I am honored to be here to voice my support for Senator Barack Obama for president. And I want to talk to you a little about why it is so important for you to do what you can to make sure that Florida is in the Obama column next Tuesday night. Look at this crowd. It's not only big, it is highly diverse. You've got a few old gray-headed white guys like me. You haven't cut my demographic out yet. This is America's future. This is a future state. Barack Obama represents America's future, and you've got to be there for him next Tuesday. You know, I am very grateful to Florida. I worked hard to bring you back into the Democratic fold, and you came, and I thank you for that. It's time to come back again so we can take America forward. Very grateful for the opportunity that I have had and that Hillary has had to campaign for Barack Obama and for America's future. I want to say a few things that he can't say on his own behalf, and then I'll bring him on to say what he can say better than anybody on his own behalf. But let me tell you, there's only two things you can do between now and Tuesday. First, you can vote and you can make sure everybody you know who is already supporting Senator Obama and Senator Biden vote and understands they do not have an option to stay home, not if they care about their country and their future. You got to get our crowd there. The other thing you can do is to find the people that are still teetering and wavering and tell them why they ought to be with us. And so I want to tell you very briefly, there are 4 reasons that I can tell you in a way no one else can, because I've been there. And I want you to tell this to everybody. And they don't just have to be your neighbors, you know. You can email people all over America. There are all these exchanges going on where people who are still undecided are fessing up, at least on the internet. And I want you to get on there and tell them there are 4 reasons they ought to be for Barack Obama. The 4 things that really matter in a president are, number 1, the philosophy, number 2, the policies, number 3, the ability to make a decision, and number 4, the ability to execute that decision and make changes in people's lives. So, I've been noticing this philosophical argument on television. Y'all been seeing that in this election? And Senator Obama asked me to say a word about it on the way up here. He's got the right philosophy, which is America works from the ground up, not from the top down. They talk about redistributing the wealth. They just presided over the biggest redistribution of wealth upward since the 1920s, and we all know how that ended. In the last 8 years, 90% of the gains went to 10% of the people, over 40% to 1%. Can you run a great democracy that way? I don't think so. So don't tell me about redistribution. When I served you, you had more than 5 times as many jobs as you're going to get out of this crowd. You had median family income across all racial lines going up, and now it's down. We paid down the debt, they've doubled the national debt. So don't tell me about redistribution. What Senator Obama has is a plan that works from the bottom up. If there's a strong middle class and if poor folks can work their way into it and stay in it, there'll be lots of millionaires and billionaires. I know we made more millionaires and billionaires than they did. You just didn't know it because middle class incomes were rising and everybody had a good job. And that's what Barack Obama will do again. So he got the right philosophy. The second thing I want to tell you is he's got the right policies. And I've read them all. And I've read his opponents. People used to make fun of me for being a policy wonk, but I take it after the last 8 years, we all know it really matters what people advocate. And let me tell you, folks, this is again something I can say because I'm not running for anything. The historical record shows that virtually every person ever elected president does his best to actually do what they say they're going to do in the campaign, and Barack Obama's do list is a better do list. The economic plan is better. The education plan is better. You listen to young people. You read his plan. If you're willing to do community service, it doesn't matter how rich or poor you are. You're going to be able to go to college, universal, everybody's included, no ifs, ands, or buts. And his health care plan is light years better. And I can tell you, there are people in this crowd, I know there are, who've lost their health insurance. There are people in this crowd who have children with autistic conditions or other disabilities that need help, and nobody's helping them. And we're living in a country, last week, 1 in 8 Americans are not going to be able to afford their cancer drugs this year. America drops to 29th in infant mortality, and we're spending more than anybody else in the world. They want to defend that. Barack Obama wants to change it, and he's got a good plan to do it. You should vote for him. Finally, let me say, his energy plan is better, and don't you be fooled when these oil prices going down, because as soon as they can sucker us in to forgetting about being energy independent, they'll go right back up again. He's got the best plan to liberate America and create millions and millions and millions and millions of jobs. So, he's got the best policy. Now, the third thing he is the better decision maker. You know, our current president said something that's really true. The president is the decider-in-chief. And in this election, you got a very unusual thing I've never seen happen before. You got to watch the candidates make not one, but 2 presidential decisions. You always get one. Who'd they pick as vice president? He hit that one out of the park, folks. That was a good decision. Okay, then you got to see the reaction to the financial crisis and America nearly coming off the wheel. Having the wheels nearly run off. I saw this up close. You know what he did? First, he took a little heat for not saying much. I knew what he was doing. He talked to his advisors. He talked to my economic advisors. He called Hillary. He called me. He called Warren Buffett. He called Paul Volcker. He called those people. You know why? Because he knew it was complicated, and before he said anything, he wanted to understand. Folks, if we have not learned anything, we have learned that we need a president who wants to understand and who can understand. Who can understand. Yes, he can. Now, wait a minute. The second thing, and this meant more to me than anything else, and I haven't cleared this with him, and he may even be mad at me for saying this so close to the election. But I know what else he said to his economic advisors. He said, tell me what the right thing to do is. What's the right thing for America? Don't tell me what's popular. You tell me what's right. I'll figure out how to sell it. That's what a president does in a crisis. What is right for America. And you know, after this election, there'll be a lot of rough times ahead. You know it as well as I do. You have got to have a president who can understand and then has the fortitude to stand up and tell you, you hired me to win for America. I've got to make this decision now. This is the very best I can do, and I'm prepared to be held accountable. I'm going to tell you something. The way he handled this crisis and the way you saw him talk about it in the second and third debate showed that he will be a very, very fine decision maker working for the American people. Here's the last thing I want to say. All over the world I see this where I work now. The world is full of good, honest, smart, hard-working people with the best of intentions that cannot figure out how to turn their good ideas into real changes in other people's lives. If you have any doubt about Senator Obama's ability to be the chief executive, that's what the Constitution calls a president, just think about all of you. Look at this. Has there ever been a campaign that involved so many people, that made so much use of the internet, that thought about how to solve problems, that gave people so much opportunity to give money, to give their time, to express their opinions, to do things? He has executed this campaign in a way that is different from modern and forward-thinking, something no one else ever could have done. He can be the chief executor of good intentions. I want you to get on the phone. I want you to stop your neighbors on the street. I want you to get on the internet and say, if you hadn't made up your mind, you ought to vote for Barack Obama. He's got the best philosophy. He's got the best positions. He definitely has the decision-making ability, and he is a great executor. Folks, we can't fool with this. Our country is hanging in the balance, and we have so much promise and so much peril. This man should be our president. All of our presidents. And he's going to be our president unless the American people forget what the election's about. This election is about restoring the American dream and giving poor people their shot at it, and restoring America's standing as the world's leading nation for peace and prosperity. Diplomacy first, military force as a last resort. Bring the troops home from Iraq, be a force for peace, and get this economy going. That's what it's about. Once you define that, there's no question. Now I want you to think about this as I bring him on. Tuesday, we will complete the presidential campaign. The presidential campaign is the greatest job interview in the world. And on Tuesday, you get to make the hire. If you're my age, you think about your children and the grandchildren you want to have. If you're young, you think about the future you want them to have. If you're young, you think about the children you want to bring into the world and what you want for them. There's not any real question here. This is not a close question. If you make the decision based on who can best get us out of the ditch, who's got the best philosophy, the best positions, the best ability, and the best judgment, I think it's clear. The next president of the United States should be, and with your help, will be Senator Barack Obama.
Be joined here tonight by a great president, a great statesman, a great supporter in our campaign to change America. Bill Clinton, give it up. Nobody makes the case for change that works for the middle class like President Bill Clinton. Nobody. And while I'm at it, I also want to say just a little something about Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton. Because I learned from her and President Clinton as a candidate. I am proud to call them my friends. I know how much will mean both Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton in the months and years to come. Lord, I think you'll all agree with me that we all wish that the last 8 years looked a lot more like the Clinton years when he was in the White House. Now, before I move on, there are just a couple of other acknowledgments that I've got to make. First of all, one of the finest United State senators we have, and one of the finest gentlemen that I know. Not to mention he's an astronaut. I mean, it's cool being president, but being an astronaut, that's something else. So please give a big round of applause to your own Senator Bill Nelson and his wonderful wife, Grace Nelson. I haven't seen her, but I heard she was here, and I want to acknowledge her, your wonderful Congresswoman Corrine Brown. I want to thank State Representative Darren Soto, Olga Tanyon, Cheryl Breed, and finally I want to say that before we came on, we had a chance to say hello to the most recent Democratic president, Jimmy Schmidt.